Hello, and welcome to a new season of Been There, Done That. We restarted the show after a long school year, and we're looking to get into a more career-oriented series of Been There, Done That. I'm Pranav Sreenivas, a rising sophomore at Green Hill School.
And I am Prajit Sreenivas, a rising 8th grader at Capel Middle School East. And today we have two wonderful guests with us, Vishank Vishwanath, who is a rising sophomore at UT Austin.
And Sachin Valdona, who is graduated from college and works at Amazon as a software engineer. If you two want to introduce yourself more, you can happily do so.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Vishank. As they said, I'm a rising sophomore at UT Austin. I'm a comp sci major. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, on my end, hi everybody, I'm Sachin. Like they said, I graduated last May, so that'd be May 2021. And I'm working full-time at Amazon now for about 9 months. Before that, I went to UT Austin for computer science major. And during that time, I also had 2 internships with Amazon as well. And then I joined them full-time after graduation.
Nice.
Awesome.
So geared more toward you, Sachin, what would you say is a day in the life of a software engineer?
So that depends a lot on the company that you end up joining, and it really does also depend on what you want out of the day. But in general, it's you wake up, you commute to work, and then there's meetings. There's a lot more meetings than you'd expect. I guess it's like that with every field, but there's meetings that you have to go to, and then you finally get some time to do whatever you want, which is usually on the intro programmer side. It's usually coding. So you do that for a while, you get more lunch, then you have more meetings, then you have more programming. Then you usually have one final meeting for the day, and then you're let go. And that's usually how the workday ends up going.
Okay, good to know. And what subjects would you say that you learned in college that prepared you for your career? And this is geared towards both of you, Sachin because he's in his career now, and Vishank because he's in those classes right now as well.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
you
ahead,
go.
Sachin.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, since I'm taking those classes right now, I guess one of the ones that really help for like your careers, I get like one of the first classes you take data structures and algorithms, because that's what they tend to interview you on. After that, the second semester I took computer systems and architecture. I think that it may not be as relevant to at least when you start out in your career, especially like in internships and things like that. I don't think I've gone very far past data structure and algorithms in terms of like what knowledge I've had to apply. But I think, yeah, Sachin can definitely talk more on what he's had to apply.
Yeah. So I will definitely echo that statement. Data structures and algorithms, it's pretty core to computer science. So if you don't learn anything else in the entire major, you need to make sure you learn that at least. I'd say that there's really 2 aspects to the question. It's what should you know to get a job, and then what should you know to keep a job? And those are really kind of 2 separate things. The interview process is for any technical role, but especially for computer science, because it's so in demand, is pretty brutal. So at a bare minimum, you need to know all of the fundamentals just in order to be able to get a job. And that, again, going back to the fundamentals, is just data structures and algorithms. That's like what they ask a majority of the time. And you do take those classes in any computer science program. They're like required to graduate. So you'll always like have the opportunity to take them. But again, pay extra attention in those classes. And then from a work perspective, like what do you find you need to know to like keep your job or like, do well in your job? It just depends on the type of work that you're going to end up doing. Like if you work on embedded systems, you're going to end up needing all of the architecture stuff. But like I work in cloud computing, so I don't need any architecture stuff. So the second part of like what you actually need to pay attention to, you really kind of need to know what you want to specialize in computer science before you can like know what you need to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And when did you know that, like, this is for both of you, but when did you know that you really wanted to pursue computer science and just get a job in that field?
I think I realized in junior year when I took AP Computer Science, I really liked that class, and I realized that I had like somewhat of a general aptitude towards like programming. So I decided, yeah, that's definitely the field I want to go into. And yeah, from there I just started learning more on my own and like, personal projects and so on.
And you,
Yeah,
Sajal?
for me, it would have been freshman year in high school. That's when I took pre-AP computer science. I really liked it back then. It was just, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just something that like I really enjoyed doing back then. And I thought that I would, try it again with AP computer science the next year. So I took that sophomore year of high school. And after that, I was pretty hooked on it. Like I knew this is what I would at least want to go to college for. Um, so that's what I did. And then in college, I got my internships, and that's when you get your first industry experience with it. So that's when I really knew that, like, okay, this is definitely the career choice that I want to make.
Right. And then, like in high school and going to college, what would you say is like the most critical skill you need to be successful in the computer science field?
Not even just entirely like data processing and algorithms, like you said, but just like social skills, working with other people, communication. What broad skill category would you say is most important for success?
Yeah, I can take that question. So I work, as I said before, at Amazon, and one of the things that I also said before is that you have a lot of meetings, and the meetings are always with other people. So the best skill, and one that takes a lot of time to master, especially in computer science, is communication. And it's like clear communication, regardless of like if it's an email or like a document writing or a presentation you're giving or just like talking to somebody in a meeting. Um, that's the skill that you need the most. And that's like really one of the skills that is super crucial, because if you can't communicate what your like problem is or what your solution is or whatever, people are not going to like, well, I mean, they just won't understand you, and then they're never going to take your solution or like understand what the delay is or whatever. So the number one skill is communication. Just like learn it however you can, wherever you can, practice it as much as possible. And if you do it well, then you also need the technical skill to back it up. But the number one is for sure communication.
Right.
And Vishank, as you are a rising sophomore in college right now, what would you say currently is the most important skill for you in your perspective?
I guess I would have to say that it would be a combination of like good like study habits and skills so you can actually learn the proper material, as well as I think the communication skills that Sachin talked about, like for the actual job, you start building that right now through like clubs and through hackathons, through like networking events, and just reaching out to other people in your major, in your classes. It's yeah, I think these two are really important, that like you just grasp the content as well as possible. You find out the best way that you can learn. I think that's just a general good college skill. And then yeah, just learning how to like talk to people at a earlier age so you can find those opportunities to really showcase your skills and do things in computer science that you really like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I know that you, Vishank, I know that you've been engaging in a lot of summer camps and all of those things with younger students to help them learn better. And would you say that's helped your understanding of computer science through it?
I think to a certain extent, definitely. Even though what I've taught those kids were like were concepts that I already knew and much more basic concepts. I think that having to teach it at like a more basic level to people who don't have, who like have zero understanding of programming and have never attempted to do so, having to teach at that level made me rethink how to really approach it, as well as just get a better fundamental grasp. So yeah, I would say so.
Awesome, thank you. And computer science can definitely be difficult, but it can also be fun. So what exactly would you two say it was your most fun project or the most fun work you've done in computer science?
Yeah, I can take that first. So I have like a lot of experience in computer science. I did 8 semesters basically in college, and I've had a bit of work experience. But one of my favorite classes that I took was neural networks related to AI. And one of the projects that we had to do there was basically build like an entire computer vision system, as well as like some control system for like a go-kart game, like Mario Kart, but open source. So it was individual project. So what ended up happening was like I built the entire like, computer vision network to do that, and like the actual controller as well for the go-kart. And we raced it on like several tracks. It was like a huge class-wide tournament, which is like, and the classes are pretty big too. It was like 60 plus people. So it was like elimination, and it was really fun. Like, because you got to see not only like how fast did your cart go and stuff, but like you just got to compare it against other people and stuff. And like, you really did build almost the entire thing from scratch. The only thing you didn't like make yourself was the game. And so that was probably one of the best moments in computer science for me. Just like seeing my little player on the screen go faster than everybody else.
So since I've only been in college for 2 semesters, I haven't done anything that exciting, but also definitely looking forward to taking that class. But I would say that the most interesting thing I've done is joining this club called Momentum. It's basically a club where they pair you with different startups, and you can help build out their projects and whatever applications that they're trying to kickstart. So I was part of a project called Root Translation, which is supposed to help bring better medical translation from between doctors and patients. So it utilized skills that I already learned through about application development, and I got to make a lot of new friends, but not only within my own company, but engineers at other companies as well. And it was overall a great experience. And one thing I do recommend for anyone who's starting college next semester is join as many clubs as possible in things you're interested in, especially for comp sci, because these can really help you broaden your skills and so on.
Mm-hmm. And directed towards high school students, what do you think are like the most important classes and kind of summer activities that high school students should be a part of to be prepared for college?
I guess I would say, since I graduated last year, that in terms of classes, I think just general comp sci classes are going to help you build those fundamental skills, but there's not too much in terms of actual academics other than just doing well in them. I think it's more just like your drive outside of school or outside of your academics that matters a little more, through like whether you're just doing projects on your own. I think hackathons and coding competitions are also really helpful, because you get to compete with others and use those skills to like create things and solve problems. And it shows that you have a better interest in computer science overall.
And Sachin, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so for me, it's pretty long time ago. I graduated this last May, so that'd be 4 years ago I graduated from high school. But yeah, just to echo a bit of what Vershank said, at least I went to Capel High School. At least there's literally only 2 computer science classes you can take to prepare you. You can take the pre-AP computer science and then AP. So if you're interested in computer science and you like want to go to college for it, at least definitely take those 2. But then beyond that, it's all up to your extracurriculars. So like hackathons are a really great way to get started with like just knowing what like a full end-to-end kind of computer science thing. So like, you know, you have to build an entire application or something for a hackathon. So like that's every single part of computer science. And you can really get interested in like certain subfields and stuff. And you really do like learn a lot about the field by actually making something. And a hackathon kind of forces you to make something, right? And then yeah, the other side of that is also competitive programming. So like I joined the team that we had, the computer science club, sorry, and then that had the UIL competitive team on it. So that one was, I mean, competitive programming is just a different niche. It's more like, you know, algorithms and data structures, like we probably said before. So like that you can already start building your really strong technical skills for your career if you do like competitive programming in high school, because the same data structures and algorithms questions they ask on the interviews are the same ones they ask in competitive programming competitions. So definitely those 2 are the strongest I would recommend.
And echoing off of what Sachin said, like at the beginning, he talked about how like certain skills are needed for your actual job and some are needed for the interview. The actual like hackathons will teach you what kind of skills you need for the your like on the job experience, while as he said, the data structures and algorithms aspect that comes from competitive programming is definitely what they're going to be asking on the interview. So
Yeah, thank you. That's very informative. And for both of you, what does your kind of long-term vision going into the future look like for yourselves? Sachin, what do you think your career path's going to be like in 5 years? And Vishank, after you graduate college, what do you think your career is going to look like?
Yeah,
Sachin,
I'll take
you
that
go
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually had to think about this. Amazon's pretty good about that. They kind of force you to think about at least a medium term career growth. You know, they always want you to be growing in your career. So in 5 years, it's pretty much just going to be, I don't want to say it's like more of the same, because as you know, advance in your career and stuff, you learn more and you do more. So over the course of 5 years, it's probably going to be just expanding what I know in the field, and then also expanding like what tools I know, what languages I know, like what I've been working on, and you know, getting promoted through that process, and probably you know, being close to getting promoted into like some type of senior role, or at least some type of like project lead role. That's what it would be like in about 5 years.
I think for me, 5 years would involve first off, like throughout college, figuring out what kind of niche part of computer science I really want to get into. Like for example, Sachin's in cloud computing, but there's also there's also neural networks, there's AI, there's cybersecurity, there's general application development. So along with figuring out what I want, I'd also like to hopefully be where Sachin is right now. So like at a company, like one of the big FANG companies. So FANG stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So Sachin's at Amazon, so one of those companies. So yeah, I think that's my current goal as well.
Mm-hmm. And Vishank, you can probably talk more about this, but as a high schooler and now in college, what advice would you give to yourself if you could tell your high school self something?
I think one thing I would tell myself is probably just get started earlier. That's the only thing I can, like, that's the biggest thing I can think of. And also just try to develop those skills, especially things like going to more coding competitions, just putting more of an effort into those sort of situations. I think that would have definitely helped just get more driven from a younger age. So yeah, I think that's the main thing I would tell myself, just get started earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And for both of you, what advice would you give students that might want to get into computer science but either don't know what they would be interested in or don't know how to get into it? What advice would you give them to just kind of get started, like Vishang said?
Honestly, you don't really need to know what, like, as long if you've already kind of decided you want to go into comp sci, um, it's not required that you need to know exactly what you want to do in the field. But I mean, I think it's important to have like at least a good general programming base. So definitely make sure you've taken those specific high school classes, and on top of that, just explore. Since there's so much you can do in the field, you can just try a bunch of different things, try learning a bunch of things on your own. There's a lot of helpful tutorials online. There's a bunch of like there's certifications. There's so many things you can do to just self-teach yourself. So I would say like pursue those and just explore and have fun with it. Honestly, just start enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, and what about you, Sachin?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the whole question?
Sure. So I know that both of you talked about just getting started early. So what advice would you give to some high schoolers or even younger kids that want to get into computer science but don't really know how?
Yeah. So I'd say that there's basically kind of three stages to the computer science, like getting into it. The first stage is in high school for sure, because by then you haven't really committed to anything. You can be like anything you want in college if you're going to go to college and get a degree. And then the second stage is when you're in college and you've committed to computer science, but then you need to pick your like little niche, your subfield to actually do your career in. And then the third stage is like when you're career and you're working full time. But for that first stage where you like don't even know if you want to do computer science, let alone like what subfield or whatever, I'd recommend just like Rashang said, trying anything, like really almost anything computer science related that you try in high school will probably just like it'll either break it for you or make it. Like you'll either really enjoy what you did and enjoy the product, or like enjoy whatever the actual final product that you made is, or you will like not like it and you'll realize like I really don't want to be sitting in front of a computer for like 8 hours a day or whatever in the future, like 10 years from now, because what I just did was not enjoyable. And yeah, just trying as much as possible really is the best way to get started in the field as well, because the more you do, the more you know. Like it's one of those like wisdom things. Like just the more experience you have building things and like either succeeding or failing, the more wisdom you're going to have, both for classes that you take at an undergrad level and also in your career. Like if you've made one mistake before, you're not going to make that mistake again, especially if it like you were tearing your hair out like for 4 hours on like some bug or something. Like if you make that mistake pretty early on in high school, you're never going to do that again. So like just try as much as possible. And there are plenty of resources online too. Like you're not limited to just the high school level classes and stuff. Just try, get your feet wet, and you know, yeah, just try something.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think that will mark the end of our first episode in our clear series of Been There, Done That. We'll be looking forward to making more of these as the summer goes on. And before we end, would either of you like to have any final thoughts or final advice to give our listeners?
I would just I think I'd echo what I said before. When it comes to like this field, just enjoying what you do is a really big part of it. If you really don't enjoy it, then you shouldn't be doing it. But yeah, it's just there's a lot you can do and just have fun with it essentially.
Yeah. My piece of advice, my final piece of advice is like hindsight is 2020, and like what adults have said to me my whole life is like you should enjoy what you do in your job because you're going to be doing it 5 days a week for like 40 plus 50 plus years. So like, if you're thinking about computer science because of like the money or whatever, but you actually hate sitting in front of a computer or coding, just don't do it because it's not worth it. Find something else to do. It really, you should enjoy at least some aspect of computer science if you're going to be doing it. And again, the best way to find out if you're going to want to do it is to just try and experiment around. So yeah, that's my one piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. And this will be the end of our first episode of the career series of Been There, Done That. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.